Becky, hey, congratulations on your new film, All Happy
Thank
Families.
you. Thanks so much. Thanks. Nice to meet you, Gig.
No, it's a pleasure of speaking to you about this film. I mean, this is such a lovely independent family movie, but let's hear it from you first is what initially attracted you, to board on this project?
For me, it's always the writing. And when the script came across and I read the script, it was one of the more clever, crazily warm, even though there's a lot of dysfunction in it. But it was warm and witty and smart. And of course, I loved the role. Yeah, a lot of times a woman of that age doesn't get to kind of go the distance of what Harula Rose and Coburn Goss wrote for this script. So it was just all those wonderful opportunities with really smart writing.
And especially the fact that I love the character that you get to play, Sue Landry, because I want to say out of this entire family, you're like the most mature and female in this family.
It's a tough family. I mean, the but I think that that's actually a great way to look at a family, that the mother is somehow the core, the center that's going to hold everybody together no matter how, many directions we're going in. And I love so much that the movie starts with her retiring and looking at what's left for her, and I rarely see that explored for a woman my age, where we're really looking at, okay, I have this whole new part of my life to look forward to. What do I want to do with it? And there I am watching my sons go at it, my husband having crises, and there it's just a great combination of a family that functions well together and is wildly dysfunctional.
And unlike all the other characters, your character actually tackles a serious subject matter of harassment. Can you,
Yes.
yeah, talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The assault that takes place from her boss on her retirement day is interesting because in the moment, and I think this probably happens to women a lot. I fortunately have never been put in that situation, but she reacts very slowly to it. She takes care of the situation and steps out of it, but it isn't until I believe she considers it further after the fact that she really realizes that she was assaulted and then proceeds to do something about it. And especially wonderfully is that her girlfriends go with her, so she has the support of other women when she confronts her assaulter. Assaulter, is that a good word? Yeah.
Yeah.
The person who has assaulted her.
I know it's an interesting situation because when it does happen, like sometimes people tr want to know is like how to handle that situation,
Yeah.
respectfully, especially with this character, which having supportive friends and also family in this matter.
Yeah. And I do think that everyone thinks that it for one thing, something like that is so unexpected. They expect you to do something very wise in the moment. But I think in this film and in real life, it's often difficult to think of doing something very wise in the moment, like screaming and asking for help or calling attention to it. Sue is such a caretaker of other people that she kind of even takes care of that situation, and then after stepping away, really reconsiders what that was. So it's an interesting thing, I think, about the film.
Now, in your role in this film, I've seen you in other stuff and with some comedic roles and everything, but it seems like this was a little bit tempered in its own way, kind of pulled back, unlike everybody else, where because of the dysfunction in the family, they seem to try to push it a little bit more. But what do you think about kind of pulling back on the comedy a little bit?
Well, what I loved about it was that there's so many things that Sue's concerned about. And one is that her son, Josh Radnor's character, Graham, um, is not getting off the starting block. You know, she's very concerned that this son is not living up to his capacity, not living up to anyone's. You know, he's just kind of struggling, uh, and of course, there's the struggles of my husband as well. And I think that when a woman is put in a position of caring so deeply about a child that's struggling, they always say that saying of "you're only as happy as your least happy child." And I think in this situation, that probably tempers the humor a bit in her life. But um, that being said, I think there is some wonderful comedy gotten out of these situations as well. It's kind of an interesting balance of a really dramatic dysfunctional family met with some wonderful comedy, you know.
Do you draw from personal experience from your family into Sue in its own way? Not quite the dysfunction, but the love of family.
I think we all do. I mean, I don't think an actor can possibly uh, do a role without. I mean, we have all this information that our life has provided us with, and that goes into the thought process when we're reading a script. You know, when I'm first reading a script, I'm writing notes in the margins all the time. I always ask for a hard copy because you need to identify these things that are actually important to you and what sparks an interest in your own life. You know, I think there was a lot in there, especially getting to sing with Rodney Crowell. That was like something that was not just Sue living her dream, but Becky living her dream. That was really fun.
I was gonna say that was a very unique moment. What was that like?
Amazing. We got to record the song, and then of course we shot it and had it recorded then as well, but we also recorded it kind of privately, but not in a glamorous studio or anywhere. And then to just get up and sing with a band, um, you know, in the movie, that's kind of Sue's dream, but in real life, that's Becky's dream as well. It was just so much fun, especially with somebody the caliber of Rodney Crowell, who's won Grammys and written songs, and that was just extraordinary.
That's a check off the life list because it
That's right.
sounds like you have never done this before in your entire
Yeah,
acting
yeah,
career.
that was a bucket list check off. You're right.
Now, this is such a great ensemble cast. First of all, tell us about working with grown ass men with Rob and Josh in these roles as the children to Sue Landry.
Yeah. Well, what's wonderful is they both worked uh, so well together from such different positions. I think Rob came up through a lot of improv and and so he's very quick-witted and fast and facile and just and that kind of really added to that quick, dark, character that he played in terms of where he was coming from with work and everything. And then Josh, who's just can do anything in my book. He's just dropped a song a couple days ago. He writes music, he directs films. He has just uh, he's talented in so many ways it's hard to even count. And I think they both, at the time we shot that film, were just working perfectly in the way that the film, called for in terms of styles. How they approached the work. It was just a great combination. And then, of course, we had John Ashton, who
Mhm.
we lost a few weeks ago, very suddenly and unexpectedly. Um, and had his talent and expertise to add to the whole pot. So it was a pretty great situation working on this film with Harula Rose, our director.
Yeah, I was going to bring up John Ashton for last, and
Yeah.
that's a tragic loss to our industry, and I wanted to say All Happy Families is one of his last films that he actually participated in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, he shot Beverly Hills Cop after us, but it was released before, just because of the way things are produced. I think All Happy Families is the last opportunity will have to see John in something. He's just so amazing in this film. He's just nobody was quite that, the good cigar in his mouth and he just always had a very special way of approaching his work.
What was
We
he
had
like?
so much fun.
What was he like in real life on set?
In real life, he's very much like he is in the film, except not as, grumpy. We shot the film in Chicago, so I came from New York, he came from LA, and we lived in the same apartment. He lived above me, and I could hear him walking around, and so we got to hang out a lot, because we weren't in our hometowns, and that's what you kind of do. You go have dinner together and everything. So he was just the most charming, person you could meet. You know, like you say, it's a terrific loss.
In a dysfunctional family film like this, how does the cast develop a chemistry with one another?
Um, it's interesting because in film, unlike theater, which I love to do as well, you have this whole rehearsal process where you work for weeks and weeks before you ever put it in front of an audience. But in film, if you're lucky, you get a nice big table read, but you pretty much go right to work and not even in the order that the story is told. So you kind of got to come in with all your ideas and hope that we have the opportunity to work together well. And of course, Harula Rose, who directed this film, made sure that we did. She was an extraordinarily open, giving, insightful. She had co-written the script, so she really knew what she was looking for. And it's why I love doing indies. There's always just a lot of give and take and a lot of talk, and you can see where you want to go. So
Most excellent.
it was a pretty great experience.
Well, Becky, let me wrap it up with one last question with you. You've done so much and with so many wonderful roles in your career. How do you choose your projects nowadays?
Um, Boy, it's a great question. I have to say that writing is number one in my book. If the writing is good, I've had some really wonderful things recently that I've done that'll be out. We'll be talking again next year because I've done a few indies recently that I really love. And I think the first thing I look for is really great writing. And then, of course, who's directing it, who's in it, all those things that when you get lucky, it all comes together well, like all happy families.
That is so true. And All Happy Families was a terrific film. And it's a great role for you. Not a lot. I don't think I could ever say that I would sing with the Grammy person, but you did. You did. So,
It was great. It was just great.
Becky, thank you very much for carrying
Thank
this.
you so much. It was great talking with you.